This is why trail braking does not work for you in racing, be it in the simulator or in real life, and 5 steps to make it finally work. You should know that drivers that do not trail brake properly are at least 1 second slower per lap. So let me guess your problem. Everyone talks about this trail braking thing, and they tell you to drag the brakes into the corner as you turn in, instead of dropping the brakes to 0 and then turning into the corner. Which, by the way, is the correct way to learn as beginners. But now you want to level up your driving, so you go on track and you try the freaking trail braking. But no matter how you try, your attempts to trail brake are slower than your regular approach of just dropping the brakes more quickly to 0% and letting the car roll or coast into the corner. If that's what happens with you, there's a reason. Whenever you change something as important as your braking approach into a corner, everything else will be affected. That means your line will be different, your steering inputs have to be different, your downshifting will have to be different. Don't panic though. Here are 5 steps to finally master trail braking in racing in increasing level of difficulty. Step 1, turn in slightly earlier to make a more V-shaped line. Trail breakers will always have more V-shaped line curves, and coasters will always have more U-shaped lines. And there's a simple reason for that. When you don't trail brake at all, you end up making a more U-shaped line to make that work because your fronts are just not properly loaded and the car is not capable of reaching maximum rotation. So you end up having a more fixed rotation from entry to apex, which creates a more circular and less elliptical arc into the corner. While trying this approach, braking in a straighter line and turning in a little bit later ends up feeling like the fastest way. At the same time, you drop the brakes very quickly to 0 because if you keep braking as you turn in, you'll pretty much park at the apex. And this is why our step 1 is to simply try to turn in earlier. But this first step will not work if you're not also applying the next steps, especially the step 2. Turn in more slowly initially. Remember when I said a different braking approach requires different inputs? The steering speed will be the most important of all. The biggest mistake when trail braking to a corner is to turn in the steering too fast. There are moments to turn the steering quickly, but not while trail braking into a corner. This will immediately upset the car because it will never be capable of responding to that. And depending on the setup, you'll either lose the front tires and go in a straight line or lose the rear and spin. You see the problem? You try to trail brake, but without turning the steering slowly, it will never work, so you give up trying to trail brake. So don't give up and try turning in slowly as you trail brake into the corner. But then here's the question, how slowly? Well, it depends on many factors. The step 3 will give you the answer to that. Relax your hands as you brake hard and start unrelaxing them very progressively all the way into the apex. The light hands technique allows you to feel the steering wheel and consequently the car, and when the grip is starting to reach the limit. If you grip the wheel too hard, being on the limit or not will be a lot more difficult to quickly identify. So your reaction time to oversteer or understeer is 5 times worse. Ever heard of the expression fishing for grip? That basically means looking for grip by turning the steering very lightly and giving small increments of angle to reach the limit more safely. While doing this while trail braking, you will quickly feel how the loaded fronts suddenly become more responsive. Here's a secret to make trail braking work on every corner. Feel that the brakes are the biggest reason the car is turning, not the steering. The steering just points the direction, and then the brakes amplify the grip of the front tires and make the car point into the corner a lot better. Another secret is to feel the resistance of the steering and try to turn just enough to reach peak resistance, but no more than that. If you turn the steering too much and it gets light, you're just abusing the front tires. That's the reason drivers with higher force feedback, like above 10 Newton meters, have an advantage in feeling the grip of the car. But it's still possible to feel the grip in weaker wheels if you relax your hands and pay more attention to the force feedback. Step 4. Okay, so the next one might seem very simple and easy, but there's a big problem to it, so let's talk about it. The step 4 is simple. You have to make sure you're able to travel between 1% and 99% brake pressure without reaching the extremes. Easy, right? But what's the problem? Settings. When coaching, I find a lot of students with the wrong brake settings, which makes the pedal feel non-linear. This includes brake force factor, brake linearity, or brake gamma, depending on the simulator or game. Having the pedal not properly set makes you think you're braking 50%, but the car is actually receiving a 25% input, for example. So pause this video, go to your braking settings, and try pressing the pedal while moving between 1% and 99% without reaching 0 or 100. You should be able to hit 1%, stop, then reach 25%, stop, then reach 50%, stop, then 75, then 99. Then move backwards slowly, 1 by 1%. If you're not able to do that easily, you will not be able to master trail braking. So fix this problem and the step 5 will be doable. If you have potentiometer or Hall sensor pedals, you should know that they measure the braking percentage based on how much the pedal is moving rather than how hard you're pressing against them. Load cell brakes are the ones that will actually precisely measure the pressure that you're applying against the brake pedal. If you do have load cell brakes, always keep them linear, which means force vector or brake gamma at 1.00. In the Logitech G Pro racing pedals, this setting is called sensitivity and should be set at 50%. If you have potentiometer or Hall sensor pedals, since it's more difficult to precisely brake on the lower percentages, like between 1 and 20% brake pressure, increasing your force vector or brake gamma a little bit might help. What this change does is increase the amount of input necessary to change the actual output of the pedals on the lower range at the cost of decreasing your precision on the higher range. So basically, you need more travel on the lower ends to change the pressure, but less travel at the higher end to change the final pressures. For example, 50% of the initial travel accounting for only 25% brake pressure in the simulator, and the remaining 50% of travel accounting for 75% of the brake pressure. Having the wrong brake settings will make you create bad habits and lose seconds per lap, so go fix it. Now that you have a lot more precision with your brake pressure, you can brake less into the corner as soon as you start turning in. This will allow you to carry more speed into the corner, which will force you to keep braking for longer. And this alone makes you gain time, since your speed trace will look like this instead of like this. And you will just get to the apex much earlier while still having a great line to the exit. With this extra precision from step 4, you should be able to have a telemetry trace that looks like this. If the simulator is realistic, or if you're not driving a real-life GT3 car with insanely effective ABS systems, you should do all these steps combined to make trail braking work. Here's a simple checklist for you to develop your trail braking skills. So here's what you're going to do. Write down the simple checklist I'm gonna show you and try it yourself on track. Think consciously about each of them and how they are connected. Then let me know if it worked or not in the comments. So here's the list. Are you turning in slightly earlier? Are you turning in slowly initially as you come off the brakes? Are you relaxing your hands as you brake hard and turning in while feeling the peak force feedback and no more than that? Are you fishing for the grip? Are you able to move between 1% and 99% precisely and release your brakes 1 by 1%? Are you starting to release your brakes as early as you start turning in to prevent abusing the front tires and upsetting the car? Racing technique is a complex art, and we can break down every small detail to improve our driving. I've done that after doing almost 2,000 coaching sessions and created the Motor Racing Checklist, an online course with 50 advanced racing technique lessons. Use YouTube 20 to get 20% discount and get your money back if you don't improve. Also, how many of these 50 sim racing mistakes do you think you're doing? Check out this video to figure it out.